Recently, I said that I'd be stepping away from covering Transformers Skybound simply because the online discourse about the comic has just become too toxic and flip-floppy. One day it's the best thing ever, and the next it has killed your dog and stolen your bank account information. But even while I'm still on break from the new stuff, I wanted to look backwards and do some retrospectives on characters and their story arcs in Daniel Warren Johnson's run. So this video, and future ones, will focus only on the first 24 issues of the comic. Some character arcs are not completed by Daniel Warren Johnson, and I'll have comments on that, yeah. But please be aware that I didn't forget the comic continued, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't read past issue 24. Once Kirkman has wrapped up his time as writer on the series, we can revisit these characters again and see where they are. So for now, let's take a look at Cliffjumper's complete storyline in Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers comic. Cliffjumper's introduction into the Skybound continuity is a memorable moment as he acts as a reprieve from the ever-building tension and trauma of our primary characters. Optimus and Spike Witwicky have just shared with each other their own struggles and the reasons they continue to fight on. This is the first glimpse into a world that is quite brutal, and yet Cliff is here to lighten the mood. He's a small, goofy fellow who is initially grossed out by the concept of humans, only to be quickly put in his place by the ever-grouchy Carly. This interaction between the two of them is simple and yet powerful all the same. It's a moment of connection between two characters that, just like Optimus and Spike, have deeper connections beyond the horizon. Even in these early days on Earth, Cliff has already attached himself to Carly when we see him save her from Laserbeak following the death of her father. Cliff's reasoning is simple at this moment. He saw Carly storm off, and he just wanted to make sure that she was okay. He didn't know of her father's death. He didn't know that she was under attack. He simply wanted to know if she was doing okay. The consequence for this action, of course, is that he is shot by Sparky, who is unaware of the Autobots' intentions. But still, after this understandable mishap, Cliff is still easygoing on Sparky, mentioning that they got off on the wrong foot. This shows us Cliff's intentions are true and heartfelt, of course only to be received again with gunfire. It's this honorable characteristic of Cliff that pushes Carly into action when she attempts to body-block Skywarp's assault. She cannot protect Cliff. Even Skywarp knows and laughs at this. She is just too small. But even in this great moment of loss in her own life, Carly stands up for the little guy. The story here refocuses on Optimus, Spike, and Sparky for a bit, but we cannot skip over the amazing action sequence where Carly and Cliff get their first taste of revenge on Starscream by, quote-unquote, getting his ass. Our next big moment with Cliff is a simple one-page story with moments of beautiful yet gut-wrenching silence. In all of Skybound, I think this page alone is one of the most impactful we've had. Cliff and Carly just sitting alone in the hospital rubble, waiting for words to be spoken. Cliff doesn't know exactly how to handle the situation, but he tries his best. We learn that because of his clan's massacre at the hands of Starscream, Cliff joined the army right away to seek justice. The highlight of this conversation, though, is the ending, as Johnson works his magic in the dialogue and delivers a small exchange that still makes me tear up to this day. Carly asks if the feeling of loss ever goes away, if it ever gets any easier. Cliff only responds with a simple, "Oh, Carly." Not the answer she's hoping for, but the truth nonetheless. Cliff's protection over Carly only grows beyond this point when he orders her to stay down during the Decepticons' next attack. This is where Carly is introduced to RC, and Cliff gets to team up with his best bud, Jazz. In the wake of this attack, Carly is once again told to stay back as the Autobots' counterattack is deemed too dangerous, but this time Cliff sneaks her on board the mission, saying that she deserves to be present when the Decepticons are finally defeated. We know in reality, he's probably feeling a strong connection to her because they both have lost family at the hands of the same monster. He wants to offer her that same vengeance he is seeking. Facing off against Devastator seems like an impossible task, though. Carly explains that the two of them are too small. a theme that we will see repeated as time goes on. They have to use their own wits to win, not their brawn. This plan to outsmart the Decepticon combiner is interrupted when the two come face to face with Starscream, who is brutally exact in recounting how he murdered Cliff's clan. But even when this monster is beaten and Cliff has the opportunity to exact his revenge, he does not. Cliffjumper is tired. The endless war, endless violence. Starscream kills his clan, he can kill Starscream, someone will kill him. It's all so endless and meaningless now. Decades, if not centuries of war, and what is it even for? Even hatred, justified hatred of someone, is left meaningless in the wake of what war ultimately takes away from you. Cliffjumper is not wrong for this moment, but as per usual, his actions of humanity, for a lack of a better word, have consequences when Carly is seized. She is saved at the end of the day, but her relationship with Cliffjumper is forever changed. The immediate fallout of this decision is shown to us through the friendship of Cliff and Jazz as the two watch Carly train with RC. Cliff questions if he made the right choice in letting Starscream live. He feels like nothing will ever make the situation right. He tries his hardest to cheer up his human friends with soda, something that Spike thanks him for. It's no doubt that Spike isn't really in the mood for this levity, but still the same, he understands that Cliff is trying to be useful, something Carly obviously does not play along with. Johnson again uses his beautifully simplistic and somewhat comedic writing here, along with Jorge Corona's art, to show us a Cliff who is beaten down, barely speaking, only to correct the humans when naming other characters. I can just hear him quietly speaking up to correct Carly and Spike, something that is absolutely not helpful at the moment, but again, he's trying his best. The two final panels of this page, however, echo the impact of the earlier discussed one, as now Cliff and Spike sit alone on the beach with no words exchanged, only shared emotions. From this moment on, Carly and Cliff's relationship really strays as the two go their separate ways. Cliff's encounter with Shockwave is devastating as his dear friend Ratchet sacrifices his own life for the little guy. The situation is only made worse when Alita convinces Optimus to leave Cliffjumper behind in order to regroup. Cliff has been through so much emotional turmoil, but now he is about to undergo a physical trial unlike any before at the hand of Shockwave. Even during this torture, though, Cliff tries to justify that Optimus didn't mean to leave him behind. He is trying his best, even in the worst situation. Optimus and his Autobots do come to the rescue, but Cliff, being the small guy, is of course used as the hostage of leverage by Shockwave. This poor Autobot has been through so much in this series already, and he continues to be used as the Decepticons' punching bag. Thankfully, Carly comes to the rescue, and there is a brief moment of understanding between the two. Even though Cliff doesn't get to finish his apology, Carly's "Hey buddy" speaks volumes right before she is thrown to safety. Cliff, of course, is somehow left alone with the Decepticons again, about to be scrapped when Optimus cleans house. Cliff's reaction to this moment and what follows shows us a beaten and broken warrior at the end of his rope. He doesn't speak for the remainder of this volume, but his expression when Optimus makes his final choice is noticeably dark. Eyes closed, teeth gritted, Cliffjumper is still so tired of all the violence. It's quite a while till we see Cliffjumper again in the series, and it's for good reason. He's now changed in a pretty big way. Stranded on Cybertron with his biggest hater, Alita, Cliff is noticeably devoid of his previously seen charm. He is happy to see his fellow Autobots, but the constant dread he has faced has taken its toll. His friends, like Bluestreak, have changed. They now drink the energon of their enemies to survive. Cybertron, the entire universe at that, has grown darker. The hope Cliff once had in his spark for a better future has grown dim, but he still holds on to one single shred of light. Returning to the bombed site of his clan's home, he retrieves a hidden spark canister that contains what's left of his family. They can't ever come back, but perhaps something new can be made from the ashes of destruction. These sparks will be taken to the Well of Sparks, where new life is created. A plan that even Alita thinks is insane, especially because she assumes Cliff will go running right back to Optimus in the end. But no, his focus is actually on Carly. He made a promise. There is some continued back and forth between Alita and Cliff about Optimus, something I'll cover in more detail in another video, but the important part here is that Cliff still defends his friends back on Earth for making the hard but right decision to leave their home. At the Well of Sparks, Cliff risks everything on the line to build a new future, one that results in the creation of the first new spark in centuries, Shredhead. Cliff's time with Shredhead is short, but precious as the two bond over the need to protect the ones they love. Shredhead has no specific memories of Cliff, but rather a collective idea from the sparks they're made up of. This is hard on Cliff. Of course, he is happy that Shredhead lives, but he still misses his clan. We see this in the brutally simplistic dialogue on the page. This okay is not an okay, if you understand what I'm saying. Cliff explains to his new friend that Carly is small, like him, and needs help surviving the oncoming battle. Cliff even says that he's one of the smallest Autobots, but that it was Carly who made him realize what good he could do in the world. This new, albeit strange reunion won't last, though, as Alita's plan to use the space bridge to return to Earth is circumvented by our little horned hero. Cliff makes the ultimate sacrifice here for Carly. Rather than returning to Earth himself, he defies Alita and kicks Shredhead through the space bridge in order to turn the tide of the war. The consequences of these actions aren't seen until Robert Kirkman's takeover as writer, something that, again, we're not covering in this video, but we will talk about in the future. And that's pretty much the end of his story. It may seem as if Cliffjumper's story has a very anticlimactic end, or even as if Daniel Warren Johnson forgot and he ran out of time to wrap things up, but I disagree with both of those sentiments. Not every story beat, or even every character arc, was ever going to be fully wrapped up in 24 issues. But Johnson does know how to end the story he is telling, like how Cliffjumper went from seeing himself as a small, weak, downtrodden Autobot who couldn't pull the trigger, to a bot who's willing to walk through a literal bombed home to retrieve a hope for the future, and to save the day by going against his current adversary. Cliff's story isn't over, but this arc of his character is over. He is small, but he's powerful. He is created a spark from the ruins of despair and sacrificed his own comfort and safety for the betterment of the people he loves. Cliff didn't push Shredhead through that portal because he was scared. He did it because he knew what was best, despite his own wants and needs. In just 24 issues, Johnson and Corona have expertly crafted a story about a bot who wrestles with the exhaustion of war, genocide, survivor's guilt, and still is able to overcome his own self-doubts to do what is right for the ones he loves, even in the face of impending justice from his own people. At the end of the day, Cliffjumper's story is completed within this arc. He's a little red-horned guy, and he made some of the hardest choices in this comic for the right reasons. And that's really powerful, if you ask me.